meeting of the Board of Trustees. We invite you to share your comments with the board during the public comment portion of our meeting. Citizens input electronic sign-up shows the rules for participating at the link provided in the electronic posting notice of our meeting. Legally, the board may listen but may not enter into discussion on the issue raised. This meeting of the Board of Trustees is called to order at 6 p.m. We have a quorum with Charlie Bustillos, Soltero Ramirez, Shane Haggerty, Mike Rosales, Connie Woodruff, Catherine Lucero, and myself, Cruz Ochoa. Trustee Lucero, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
because that's the direct language that we got from TEA defining the expectations for our plan. The key components based on the TEA attestation that you're going to approve on Thursday is that we have to provide an instructional schedules for pre-K-12. Our program will cover all pre-K-12. Asynchronous instruction involves more self-guided student instruction. It defines what we believe asynchronous is. And all eligible grades need to be fully engaged, and a day's half worth, basically mimicking what they would in the normal face-to-face setting. And present asynchronous engagement is defined by progress as made in their learning management system, progress, and they can turn in assignments that day. And again, we must submit the plan for your approval. Ysleta's plan consists of a mix of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. And it's all the plans can absolutely and should include synchronous and or asynchronous instruction, especially for pre-K. For pre-K2, you can only apply for an asynchronous plan. So let's begin with the instructional schedule requirements. Direct language coming from TA. The teacher has to interact with students. The teacher has to be available for students via class hours. The students can access instructional support from teachers when needed. Students are provided clear means to engage with academic material. We'll continue following our students' IEPs. And the student academic work ensures that engagement is equivalent to what they would be engaged in a normal school year. And on the screen, you can see examples of our schedules. This is an elementary schedule. So you see it's a Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, with Friday being an asynchronous, complete asynchronous day. We start off with our regular morning announcements, our in English language arts. We have math. Our snapshot is at the same time that it is during the regular school, which is at 9:30. We incorporated lunch, a conference period for our teachers, our fine arts, our office hours, science, and social studies. You can see on the screen, it says live lessons. That is when the teacher's on and providing a live face-to-face or virtually lesson. And then the other times are self-paced. On Fridays, this was our first Friday, and we call them flexible Fridays. We also continue our asynchronous instruction. The students log on during their live check-in time at 9, and then we continue working with our teachers, planning, providing them professional development. We have office hours every day from 2:45 to 3:30, which provides students and teachers and parents an opportunity to call that teacher, ask any questions, provide extra clarifications for assignments, anything that they may need. So our elementary schedule mimics, this is a normal elementary schedule that would happen in a face-to-face environment. The middle school schedule is very similar to our high school schedule. We consist of all 8 from first period all the way to 8th period, and sometimes 9. And it also shows you that we have our office hours first thing in the morning. So every single teacher, middle school and high school, have the 8 to 8:30 office hours. Our snapshot attendance is at the same time. They always take attendance at second period. We have third period, fourth period lunch embedded in our advisory. We also have different availability for parents. Their conference time is also available for their student office hours. And on Friday, they check in at the same time, and we continue our PD and planning for our teachers. For high school, it looks similar to the middle school. Again, we have the live lessons, the 9 periods, the PLC, the lunches, and also office hours for all our parents. What TEA also said is that your materials design requirements, your material has to continue being TEKS aligned. It has to be a full curriculum that can be executed in a remote learning environment. You have to ensure that assessments continue to inform you on student progress, that your instructional materials support a coherent logical course sequence, that instructional materials also reinforce all concepts, that they're specifically designed to accommodate and modifications for our students with disabilities, and that there's a plan in place to ensure that instructional materials are used in the hands of students. So basically, we took our curriculum and made sure that it met the needs of all students in a remote environment. In Ysleta ISD, we have the TEKS resource system, and that's our curriculum. So anything in our curriculum having to do with TEKS is used through our TEKS resource, or TEKS R Us, like you'll hear teachers say. We've adapted, we have a gap analysis. We've also took time over the summer. Our instructional specialists and directors worked very hard to make sure that all the things that we were missing were properly addressed and covered throughout the school year. As you may recall, we did not get an opportunity to end the 9 weeks, obviously in the spring. So there was a lot of those TEKS that carried on into the first couple of weeks of instruction for our kids. So we incorporated that to make sure that everything we needed was still taught. Our lessons still include opportunities for interactive instruction via an online curriculum. So we have resources from Reading A to Z. We're using a lot of our technology tools such as Nearpod, Flipgrid, and our EL and SPED curriculum tools continue to be available student language support, text-to-speech, all of those accommodations that we continue offering to our kids via our curriculum. The district has provided all teachers and students a device, pre-K through 12th grade. We're very, Dr. La Torre and many others, device. What TEA also said, as you remember, there's 4 key. Student progress is one of them. In the student progress world, it continues that you're tracking your students every day through a learning management system. Then you need to have academic progress. We still need to make sure that students are learning what they're supposed to learn. We're supposed to make sure that feedback is provided and your school grading policies are consistent with those prior to COVID, which means that this time around, we are not able to modify our grading system, and they'll continue our grading policies. They'll continue what we usually have done. But progress monitoring includes monitoring all students in all subjects, either digitally or print, providing feedback. So in Ysleta, we've always done a great job of student progress monitoring, and we'll continue to do that. Work our district progress monitoring, and we'll continue to do that. Work our district assessments in the core subjects from recently taught TEKS will continue. We also have informal performance assessments. We'll continue monitoring our kids via iStation and Imagine Math for their reading and math progress. Achieve 3000, which is a program for our ESL students, will continue to be tested beginning, middle, and end of year. Our pre-K students will also continue with our assessments. We will also have our TA assessments that we run frequently, beginning of year, our interims, and we'll continue to administer all TSIA, AP, SAT, and ACT assessments throughout the year. Grades pre-K-12 will be marked absent, present via remote asynchronous. So like I explained earlier, tracking engagement at a minimum will follow. Engage means that any of these 3 occur. Progress in the Google management system, progress as defined from the teacher interaction made that day, or turning in the assignments of that day. So we will continue using our student information system to track daily attendance. We'll use our Google Meets function as well too. We have Google Forms, and the daily engagement right now is a live interaction between the teacher and the student, and students can also upload assignments to their Google Classroom or another respective app such as Class Dojo, Remind, to make sure that we're counting them present for that day. And the last requirement that TA set is that you have to implement a. So this is a snapshot. There was more detail in your plan that we emailed you this weekend, but this is exactly kind of the work we've been doing behind the scenes starting from June all the way to August. We've provided our holiday exchange from content to technology. We had many Mondays, every single Monday in the summer. We provided our teachers an opportunity to come learn the Google platform, Nearpod, Flipgrid. During our professional development week, we embedded Padlet, Screencastify, a Google Suite, all sorts of PD that we've offered. And in your plan, we provided a whole year's worth of all the PD that we will provide our teachers, our administrators, and the opportunities that we'll continue to have to communicate with our parents and students. The communication will continue, such as our website, our social media, Blackboard, Peachjar, Ask the District, our eHack. If you haven't had an opportunity, our Back to School webpage is up and running. We update it every Friday. We communicate with our parents via Blackboard, Peachjar. Ask the District is an opportunity where parents can submit their questions, and we've been responding. And then our eHack portal is where all parents, our progress reports, our attendance, our report cards, anything. This is how we provide academic progress and attendance communication with parents. Every week, our superintendent has put videos out to update the community on different events, from events to what's upcoming, to things for parents, tools for parents, different videos that he's been put out to our community. Our Back to School website, we update it every Friday, and this is kind of a glance, but it gives you our learning options, our health response, our safety plans, everything that parents need to know about our Back to School. And then we have the District at Home on Learning Parent website. When parents click on this, they can have access to many things, from videos about how to log on to the Google Classroom, how to upload, how to download, how to log on to iStation. There's several tools for our parents and that we upload here. So as we go on to reimagine, reset, and respond, we're happy to report that our first week of instruction went very well. And we're going to continue making sure that we provide that quality education that Ysleta has always provided. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Thank you, Brenda, for that presentation. I actually have just a few questions. I don't mean to load them up all in one. I guess I'm going to start at the beginning. And I asked you this before. I just want clarification. Are videos available at all grade levels to view the lessons later if parents need that? That's one question.
You want to answer? Yes. The videos are available. They'll upload them to the Google Classroom. That's part of the asynchronous. So for parents, either because they're working or whatever barrier is going on in their household, they can access our curriculum and the learning after, and they definitely they can watch the lesson. Teachers have been uploading their lessons to the Google Classrooms, and then they upload their assignment in the evening.
Okay, so, and is that like by 12 a.m.? That part gets just a little confusing.
It's 11:59 p.m.
p.m. Got it. Okay. What are the options for SPED students that are needing less screen time? How is this working for our SPED students?
We actually follow the student's IEP, Ms. Lucero. Each student has in their IEPs. Our SPED department has been phenomenal and has provided several trainings to our special education, everything from our OTs to our PTs. They're all hands on deck. As a matter of fact, in the next couple of weeks, our SPED department is going to have some live parent meetings where our special education parents can come and we can make sure to answer their questions. But yes, we accommodate based on their IEP. For example, if the student needed extra time in the classroom, we provide extra time virtually. If the student provided a small group for resource or whatever their disability calls for, we provide that in the virtual setting.
Okay, so if there's a few students that might be struggling with something, all they need to do is contact the counselor or their principal to be able to update the plan if needed for virtual learning. Okay.
They would actually go back to an ARD.
Got it. Okay, another question is and I guess this is for all grade levels, but more so for the elementary. Is administration allowing for flexibility in the schedules? Because I believe many teachers are working with parents, but I don't know if it depends on the campus or is it across the board at our district, where if there's needing some flexibility in the schedule that is prescribed, are they able to do that?
Yes, that's one of the words we've all learned is flexibility, and we've been very flexible. So if parents do have a concern, they can absolutely contact a central office or contact the school principal, and we've been working with our parents. This is a learning time for all of us. We're all in this together, but we've been very, very flexible in working with our families and teachers.
Okay, that's it for my questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Any questions, Mr. Haggerty? You raised your hand.
Base instruction and wean ourselves off of the virtual pieces. But at this point, CTE is working on providing students with software that is what they're using, very beneficial, and it's tied into exactly what they're supposed to be working on their pathway.
And that's with the electrical, welding, and culinary arts, I guess those.
And your are 3-hour blocks. And so the students, some of them do have practicums in those areas. And so when they're not working on something virtually, they're focusing on a practicum, or they're doing other hands-on activities at home.
And those courses are 3 hours, correct?
Yes, sir. Most of them are 3-hour blocks.
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Ms. Woodruff.
What I wanted to say is that during this time when we are going back into school virtually and we ended school virtually, it seems really concerning that we keep up with the progress of each of our kids, especially the ones that are most at risk. And so I was really glad to see that you've included that in your asynchronous plan here, and that because as a teacher, I know that I can't work with kids unless I know where to start. And it's very important for us to make sure that we can keep track of what's happening with our kids. So.
Absolutely. I mean, we want to make sure that whatever we're delivering, our kids are learning. That we've all, that's what we're about. We've always delivered a solid education program, and we'll continue to make sure that what we're doing is working. And the only way to know that is progress monitoring our students. So we're going to continue doing that. We'll continue. The data will speak for itself. If a student needs help, we'll obviously have a small group. It's just a virtual small group. And that teacher can provide that intervention based on whatever the data starts telling us.
Well, I like that a lot because to me.
Anybody else have a question? Mr. Haggerty, are you still with us?
I have his question.
Okay.
Is there a website where teachers, parents, administrators, and
how's it going? What's working? What's not? They've implemented that at the campus level. And I know the administrator, that's kind of what guides your Fridays, based on whatever suggestions, anything that comes up that needs extra support from students to parents to teachers. The first 9 weeks is all about supporting our teachers, our students, and our parents. And because we're all in it, it's new, everybody needs support, and we'll continue supporting that, Mr. Haggerty. So we do have a kind of weekly check-ins. And that data and on Fridays is what we provide extra support for our teachers, get the opportunity to work with parents, follow up with them. So we are doing weekly check-ins.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Woodruff. Any other questions? If not, thank you, Ms. Chacon.
Thank you.
I do have a brief presentation for you regarding the proposed 2020 tax rate. But before I delve into the details, I want to take you back and provide some context for the proposed rate. So as you may recall, The 2015 bond program was extremely successful, but there were needs that remained unmet. During the 2 years after the bond program was passed in 2015, the board was able to reduce the tax levy by ½ cent per year for a penny reduction on the tax rate overall over the course of 2 years. As a result of the success of the 2015 program and the board's financial prudence with the tax rate, when it came time to take back to the voters a proposed 2019 bond program, the voters were receptive. And so in November of 2019, they passed another bond program for $425 million. At the time, our financial advisor was projecting a debt increase to the maximum cap of 50 cents, which is the Attorney General approved limit. They anticipated that with our first tranche or first sale of debt, we would take our tax rate up to 0.3975 per $100, when in fact the actual INS rate that we're proposing is slightly less. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other changes that you'll see in just a moment. So let me change to this slide. As you can see, there are 3 sections of this particular report or slide. In the first section is the proposed 2020 tax rate. Yes?
We don't see any of your slides.
Well, let me stop presenting and re-present. I see myself, but I don't see.
We can see it now.
I'm sorry, is it there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me put it in slide mode so you can see it. There we go. Okay, so on this particular slide, you can see the 3 sections: the proposed 2020 tax rate, the 2019 tax rate, and the 2018 tax rate. And then within each of those sections, you see the EPISD, SISD, and Ysleta ISD tax comparisons. And if we're going to compare tax rates, it's important to start with a common home value. And so even though the median home value in each district is different, for the purposes of this comparison, we're using a standard $125,000 home value, which is pretty close to what the median values are in each district. And so beginning in the proposed 2020 tax rate, I'll just use that section to walk you through it. So if we have the same home value for all 3 districts at $125,000, Ysleta is the only district that offers the optional homestead exemption of 20%. So $125,000 less $25,000 immediately benefits our taxpayer, reducing their home value to $100,000 compared to the other 2 districts' $125,000. And then every district offers the statewide standard exemption of an additional $25,000, further reducing our home values now to a taxable value of $75,000 compared to the other districts' $100,000. Then you apply the tax rate per $100 of value to the taxable home value. And for the proposed 2020 tax bill, our taxpayers would be paying $1,085 a year, which is $280 less than SISD's at $1,365 and $233 less than what EPISD is charging at $1,318 per year. Now, at the bottom, you can see that the average single family dwelling value is actually slightly different. EPISD's is $147,000 compared to SISD's $143,000 compared to our $112,000. What's of particular importance is probably the impact between years. So as you'll notice, if you move to the middle section of the chart, Ysleta's taxpayer on the same value home last year paid $1,015. This year they'll pay $1,085, which is $70 more, or about $5.80 for a month for the 12 months. Interestingly, in 2018, our taxpayer would have paid $1,091. Can y'all see that, or does it not show up on the slide because I've got the viewers are showing up? Better?
Yes.
So here you can see the $1,091 that our taxpayer would have paid in 2018. So they are actually paying less in 2020 than they would have paid in 2018, or than they did pay in 2018. And obviously that bears the question, how is that possible? Well, as you may remember, last year, the state legislature passed a significant finance reform. And when they did so, they compressed one side of our tax rate. And I'm going to go to the next slide to show you that. So on this slide, you can see, and we're going to start at the far right. In 2018, our M&O rate, which was one component of our total tax rate, was $1.17 per $100. In 2019, they dropped it almost 11 cents. And in 2020, they dropped it another penny. We have no control over that. It's governed and set by the state, and it was a part of that finance reform. So our M&O, maintenance and operations rate, which supports our district's operations, decreased by almost 12 cents between 2018 and 2020. However, on the INS, which is interest and sinking fund or debt service side, in 2018 and 19, our rate was 0.285, and this year we're taking it to 0.3925, strictly as a response to the voter-approved debt associated with the 2019 bond program. So from 2018, we had a total rate of 1.455. It went down to 1.35 in 2019 and is back up to 1.44 in 2020. And then below that, you can see the amount of debt we have to service. And when I say that, that's the debt service payment. So that's actually the check we'll issue for our debt service bills this year. And then the total bonded indebtedness is listed below that. And you can see there's a significant increase from 2019 to 2020 as a result of the voter-approved 2019 bond program. And so with that, I'm going to pull my speaker mode back up because I can't see you if you ask me questions. Okay. Are there any questions?
I can't see any of our board members, so I don't know.
All right, let me minimize my screen altogether, and that will give you, there you go.
Okay. Okay, we have Mr. Ramirez there. Go ahead, Mr. Ramirez.
Ms. Leeper, can you go back to your first slide? And you know what? I'm sorry, you don't need to go back. If you can go just look at your first slide, does that reflect the new tax rate set by EPISD's board a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, these are the new tax rates that you see here.
Okay, that was the question then. Thank you.
Certainly.
Any other questions? Ms. Lucero.
Okay, what is the, and I'm not a mathematician, but exactly in percentage, what is the percentage of tax increase?
All total, it's about 8.7% from 2019.
And this is going to be a really absurd question, but I just want to really understand and see if what is possible in this particular year. But considering the extraordinary circumstances that we are in, are there any other avenues that we can pursue in order not to raise the taxes?
Those are very limited. And in fact, right off the top of my head, I don't know of any. If we had a very large debt service fund balance, which is actually prohibited because they don't want us accumulating large pools of money that we aren't spending on educational and instructional purposes. So we don't have a lot of excess money sitting around in our debt service fund. If we don't pay those payments or reduced those payments, those really aren't options. It would be like defaulting or just not paying the house payment. You don't really have that choice. The INS rate is strictly driven by the amount of debt and the debt payments that are due in that year.
Are we able to defer it?
No, not that I'm aware of. I can certainly ask if there's, I will just tell you off the top of my head, I have not seen any CARES Act provision or any other debt deferral for a public entity related to the COVID pandemic. Obviously, you know, we've seen student loan deferments, we've seen other programs like that at the federal level. I have not seen any indication from any of our authorities, including all of the TASB TEA guidance that we've received, that there's any deferment or forbearance or anything like that on municipal or ISD debt.
I've seen it, Lindley, with municipal water utilities when it's a USDA type of loan. That's in the field that I work in for this particular year, but I don't know. That's why I just want to know if there's any other avenue we can pursue for this particular tax year.
I will certainly look into that, but I feel certain that I would have gotten the information from us. Keep in mind, the holders of our debt are typically institutions, private institutions, not public sector or agents.
Understood.
Thank you, Ms. Lucero. Mr. Rosales. You're muted, Mr. Rosales.
Okay, here we go. Just a clarification on the rate increase, is it 8.7?
The percentage is 8.7, 8.69%.
Okay, and that, because I went from 1.3533 versus the 1.4466, and I get 9.93. So can you explain the differential there?
Yes, sir. So it's very similar to the calculation of an effective rate. And let me see if I can walk you through this. So it's the amount of revenue raised, not the rate increase. And the way that's driven is because if a home value last year was 100,000 and you charge 10 cents on the 100,000, you get 10,000, right? But if the home value decreases, then you have to charge, to get the same amount of revenue, you charge a different rate. And that's an effective rate calculation. And I'm giving you effective rate increases. So just between the rate, you're right, it's 9%, but based on the value that supports the tax, it's about 8.7, according to the legal notices that we have to post.
The other, just a point of clarification. When we consider the deductions, that's actually what saves us in comparison to the districts. However, I would caution the board as we look into the future in the next 2 to 3 years, that we need to look at things from all angles, because this, especially in this area, if you look at the values of home single family dwellings in comparison to El Paso and Socorro, we're way down. There's a big difference there. And I guess I'm championing the homeowner that believes in us, but we cannot not overburden the issues. And I know we face some very difficult, and will be facing some difficult decisions, but we have, as a board, need to be very attuned to the fact that whoever pays the bills are going to be highly affected. And so that's my only point. It's not a negative, it's more of a precaution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosales. Any other questions for Ms. Leeper? Okay, Mr. Ramirez.
I appreciate the trustees' comments, particularly Mr. Rosales. I guess the comment I have to make is that I keep reading an awful lot, Ms. Leeper, about, and Dr. La Torre, about what the governor and the lieutenant governor are looking at for the next legislative session, particularly as it relates to ISD's, their reserve fund, and that how that may impact. Do you think that at some point before the end of the year that we could have a discussion, or at least some type of presentation on the available information? I know it's probably not a whole lot, but I know that they're looking at different ways of funding us when the legislature reconvenes. And so I'm a little bit concerned, and back to Mr. Rosales' concern, you know, there's a lot of things for us to consider going forward, and not only preparing the district, but also preparing our taxpayers and our community about the impact that the legislature may have on us going forward.
The challenge for the state is that even if they want to be aggressive, and in a district like ours, if you look at our reserve or our fund balance, it's healthy. But I will tell you that for about 50% of the districts in the state, if they go too aggressive, they'll bankrupt, 400, 500 school districts. So because they can't apply it just to our district or districts that are healthy, and Lindley and her team have done a great job to get us with your support to get us a very healthy fund balance. They can't simply pick us as the model, because if you take 5-6% from some of the smaller districts throughout the state, and even some of the larger districts throughout the state, you'll bankrupt them. And because they can't come right out and say, everybody else gets to stay neutral, except for Ysleta ISD and districts like Ysleta ISD, they have to look at the most vulnerable districts when they decide how deep they go. And so because of that, not that we won't be affected, or not that we won't have to make some decisions, and we'll be making decisions all throughout the year to get a little flatter and leaner, and be very deliberate in what Lindley and her team approve in terms of spending. HR, as you know, is the biggest piece of our budget. So as people decide to leave us, hire, resign, everything that happens relative to positive attrition this year is going to be looked at very, very closely. But the saving grace may be is that most districts are not in the position we are in, and the state really has to look at what the implications would be statewide if they go too hard and too heavy on a lot of districts out there who are already in danger of going bankrupt or needing, ironically, state aid to survive any kind of a cut. I don't know, Lindley, am I in the ballpark?
Yes, sir. You've always hit the nail on the head. Absolutely.
Dr. Lasauter, I absolutely agree with everything you say, and and it just as usual, you get no credit for doing everything to the best of your ability, and trying to serve your community, and being prepared for the future. And then with all the additional spending or unanticipated spending, in our community, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then, the other part of this too, and I almost want to take a victory lap on this one, is that, by us purchasing the computers and being so aggressive with purchasing computers for our students, we were in a lot better shape than many of our fellow ISDs. I don't know if ISDs are fellows or not, but anyways, our fellow ISDs, and being able to have equipment for our students, and make sure that they have the equipment, things that they need for their education. And so we've worked real hard over the last 5-6 years to make this happen. But again, it's like, you don't get any credit for that. And we may be, fighting dragons here pretty quick. So, but I appreciate, your practical approach to it, and how we need to move forward, and like I said, keep the community informed.
I was talking to the librarians and IETS staff earlier today, and I told them that there was a big point of pride for me this week, and I went to see my kids, and I was going over their reentry plan in a place like Redondo Beach on the coast, Palos Verdes, wealthy, sophisticated, well-educated, affluent, all of that. And the note that we got from my kids' particular school district is that that the computers have been ordered, but that everyone in the country has started ordering computers at about the same time, and that our kids, my kids and others, should expect to get a personal digital device anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. And I'm thinking, wow. But nevertheless, they're expected to start school on Wednesday of this week on a virtual platform. And I guess what the school district is sort of banking on, and it probably works in a community like that, is that most of those households probably have digital devices. Right. And so it doesn't require the sense of urgency. So the pride really is in a district like ours, a board like ours, recognizing that teachers are important across the country. They are game changers. but there are no more game changers in this entire country than in communities like El Paso, where you know that without you, a child is lost, a family's lost. Whereas in Palos Verdes and Redondo Beach or Mosa Beach, they can go out and basically admit that we haven't provided the devices, but they should finish it with. But we know that all of you will likely provide your children with those devices if you haven't already. So it's a very different experience, as I mentioned to people in California when they say, how are you guys doing relative to how they're doing? And the honest answer, the brutal answer is better than you are, if not for your demographic. And that's what we've always been about. We've always been about understanding that there's a margin between some children and other children, families and other families, and recognizing that we're the fill gap. Part of our work is to close that margin using the resources that we have available. So I felt really, really good this weekend. I didn't feel great about having to buy Lucas a computer, but it is what it is.
By the way, I'd just like to make the comment that, we've had several cases, and I'm thankful to the associates and the chiefs for being such huge advocates for our students. But we had cases, and I talked to a parent last week, and his comment was, my business has pretty much gone under because of everything that's happened, and I can't afford these things, and he was looking for a hotspot, and your team, our team, jumped all over it, and all I get is a text and saying, we took care of it, don't worry about it. And so I appreciate that. And again, today we had another issue with a family, and again, I get a text, it's taken care of. And so I think that, and I know I'm not the only one that's having those things happen to them. So I appreciate the team. But again, what is it, the old saying about no good deed goes unpunished, and that's certainly true here at YISD. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. I'd like to add to that. I meet with several board presidents every 2 weeks from around the state. And I did get that what was it? They made that comment that they had ordered their laptops and they were in back order and they were waiting for them. And these are communities that are much bigger than ours. And I'm like, wow. I mean, they are really behind the 8 ball on that, because teaching online, as we all know, it's not that easy. If you don't have that communication link, it really puts the student at a big disadvantage. So I'm so glad that here at Ysleta, we were able to provide every student with a device so they can communicate with their teachers and keep online. I think it's proven this week that it's been very useful and productive, and we'll do it as long as it takes until we can get back in the classroom. But thank you all for everything you guys do. Shane, you're back. You have something to say? You're on.
I do, thank you. What would be the cost in real dollars if we were to not pass the tax increase on this year, and we were to take that out of the general fund?
The sleeper. You're muted, Miss Sleeper.
Sorry, that's about $43 million.
That's just for the year?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Hey, I guess you're back on solid ground there, Shane. That's good. All right, thank you. We have no other questions. Dr. De La Torre, what's on next on the agenda here?
Our next agenda item, President Ochoa, members of the board, is Ms. Champagne's monthly report to the board. She'll want to know if you have any questions.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see the share screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Board President, board members, and Dr. Del Torre. This is Champagne. I would like to go over with you the audit process and then the goal is to tonight is go over how the internal audit function is the process and the communication process. They revised the 2020 audit plan and my proposal of having the audit plan cycle to change from fiscal year to calendar year. If you have any question, anytime, just stop me during this process. So in your package you received for the last few weeks, there should be one package that has the audit plan revised. The last version is V5. I colored blue to show you what has been changed from previous version. So here, the PowerPoint is going to share with you all the summary of all what I was trying to communicate and share with you. So for the department's mission, what we try very hard is to provide a fair and objective added-value audit services to the entire district, every unit and every level of management. Now, the internal audit office was re-established in 2002 and subsequently Senate Bill 1854 provided very clear guideline, the audit work papers that exempt from open record request. These work paper, meaning our interview notes, any notes that we took to back us up for the final audit report. The final audit report is issued once we have completed our understanding, completed our sample reviews, verifies the process, and then we issue audit report and it's sent into each of the board member and superintendent. And we CC the audited department and the supervising associates. That's the process of the reports. The department, I have just have the senior staff auditor. Yes, sir. You're muted.
Champagne, can you go back one slide, please?
Yes, sir. Yes.
On the audit reports on item number 5,
yes.
You have to the Board of Trustees superintendent and the CCs, the auditee, and the related associate superintendents. With the change in the organizational chart, it's my personal opinion, like I said, I'm just one observer on this, but it's my personal opinion that the associates are Dr. Chacon, Ms. Leeper, and Ms. Russell should probably be recipients of all the reports, regardless of the chain of command on this particular thing, just because they have their responsibility crosses across the entire district. So that's just my thought, and I would certainly entertain any agreement or disagreement from any of the trustees. So
it's something we've talked about in previous board meetings. Trustee Ramirez, I agree with you completely on that.
I want to say I also agree with that. I think all of the associate superintendents should be receiving these reports, but especially Ms. Leeper and the ones who have the most offices to cover.
So I guess Ms. Champagne is recommendation is just to delete that related and just put all associate superintendents. Whether they want it or not, they're going to get it. So.
And really, the way we've reorganized, I would just insist on the chiefs, the 3 chiefs, getting the report. And as you know, all 3 of them are quite capable and quite responsive. So if the 4 of us get the report, they'll know who they need to go see and what they need to share with a sense of urgency. So if not all the associates, at the very least, I'd like a copy. And then of course, Lindley, Bobby, and Brenda. And once it gets to Lindley, Bobby, and Brenda, you've basically made it available to all of those on a need-to-know basis.
Sure. If you all like that, I will make the change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. In my operation, we have Amy Sanchez. She joined us last week. She came in with more than 15 years of auditing experience, and she just came from Texas Tech, chief of staff to the board, the president's office. So with her join us, I have very strong confidence our operation will come back up very, very soon. And she has a very good experience with me back in 2005, 2006. She was my audit staff back then. And I have Fernando Ramirez as the staff auditor too. He also has several years of experience, and we will continue to provide as much training as possible to educate him and also to bring him up on the district's operation and processes. The staff auditor one position, HR is in the final stage of processing. So hopefully before end of September, we can bring in the candidate, the final candidate with us. And I have a part-time auditor. She's the college student, and she just came back from her summer internship, so she will be able to join us from this week. The Secretary Crystal joined us since October, and then we have this COVID-19, so the training is still ongoing, and she's very willing and good, very good at work ethic. So overall, what we try to accomplish is we try to make sure the operation is efficient and effective, and we want to make sure provide board and upper administration, all the administrations that these three big areas: operation, the assets and facilities, and the compliance areas. And what I try to accomplish is to provide a comprehensive independent appraisal program, and we execute this objectively and fairly to set evaluation on every cases we do. And we try to do as much as we could to make sure the situation is evaluated with a fair treatment, following the same standard, following all the relevant policy and procedures. I like to borrow the academic of the PLC, except when we do, we try to make sure it's prudent, it's legal, and it's cost effective. The audit focus, we try to make sure that we are focusing on data analysis, we're focusing on updated policy and procedures or program intent compliance. Now, with COVID-19, what we even more important is to make sure that if we have a record that is original record, for example, it's already submitted to the central office, then I ask my staff that we do not ask campus or department to keep a duplicate copy just so the audit will be more convenient. What we try to make sure it's district-wide, we maintain one system, and the financial system, the student system, we go with the original source of that. So that way, then overall operation is more cost effective and it's more efficient rather than so many side system or side backups that sometimes could be confusing as well. So I try to draw this similar to the thinking map, if you may. When we start the initial audit, okay, so audit we have continue to carry the three stages of those. We initial audit, once we issue the audit report and we work with department or campus so they have time to work with their staff within 6 weeks also to give us a corrective action plan if there's anything they need to fix. And then within a year or so, we go back and to verify if those corrective action plan has been implemented or not, and whether the implementation was effective or not effective. So those are in the memo in the package that I attached to it. The title is called Audit Process and Communication. In there, describe more detail on that. Now, once every audit process we have is within the department, we go through research, data analysis, and we make sure the sample files, all these processes are all relevant. Then we go with the sample review. Also, the sample testing we select is more relevant, more recent, more relevant, more effective way to write. Then in the audit report, like I described in the audit process, the communication, that memo within there, I have followed all the board and upper management suggestions. So it's color coded. If what we find in it's all good, addressed, it's in green. If something that we found out and pending the corrections or corrected during the audit, we mark it blue. If it's not addressed or purely exception that was not taken care of, then it's in red. So those are the three reports follow the same fashion, same coding, so it's easy for every reader to follow. And then on this report, I discussed with you, I will make the update to issue to 8 of you and CC the top 3 associates. And of course, if we audit the department or we audit the campus, the principal or the director should get a report as well. And this cycle comes back, all the audits comes back to for the next cycle's reference. And today I also, on Wednesday, you're going to vote on the approval is what I presented to you on the revised 2020 audit plan. What I wanted to do is, since I have used the same.
Champagne.
Yes, sir.
Can you go back a slide? I don't mean to take up too much of your time, but on the audit process, when you go down there, you say you do prep, you research and do data analysis. Is that where you're just doing you have this transaction and you just kind of see what kind of data trail is, where it leads to, how it started and where it ended and how it got deposited or withdrawn?
Before that, this research is we look at previous audit. If we had done this department's audit, we look at previous audit results, audit if there's any pending items, and we research on what is the relevant requirements, for policy, TA requirements, federal requirements, and then we plan on how many samples we select, how many transactions there are, depends on the audit projects, what size of the data we need to collect, and from there we determine the sample size. Then we go to verify the transactions. We select, say that we select 5% transactions to verify. Then we go into detailed transaction verification. How does money is coming in, or how does student record is recorded, and where it goes and how it goes, whether it's in compliance or not in compliance.
So I would like to maybe later on, if you could give me a timeline on how all these, how much it takes to do each one of these little blocks here.
Sure, I have some tracking with different stages. I can give you some analysis on that.
No, the timeline. How long does it take you to complete, on an average, all of these?
Okay.
And I know it's all based on how much data you're looking at. I would just like to have a timeline, so see how it all flows. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. This slide really is a quick summary to show you the relationship once we have during and after the audit. Say that during the audit, we realized there was some items that really are a significant finding, then we might contact external auditor, we might contact HR, we might contact legal counsel for the relevant information or notice we may. If there was some inappropriate action or mismanagement, then we might bring security, we might have to notify DS. But all of these, the board and the super and the management, I make sure that you guys are in the loop as well. This is how I allocate the resources that I have. I take working days that we have, and I estimate 68% is for auditing hours. That means we do audits from research, testing to reports. I do need to set aside about 16% of available hours. Each employee is 226 days in 226, and 16% of that I set aside for training. Another 16% set aside for, could be personnel issue, could be office filing, sometimes office meetings or district meetings, all these stuff. And then the secretary, we don't have the luxury for secretary only just to do filing. So our secretary does a lot. Basically, it's not just the librarian, but also it's the report proofreader. Also, it's the liaison between our office and all other departments or other campuses, tracking all the records that we receive, when we receive, when we return, scheduling the visits, all these. So it's a very heavy duty for our department's secretary. With a revised audit plan, what I like to request you all give me the support and approval is changing from fiscal year to calendar year. I used to present this plan in June for your approval so I can start July 1. But to prepare an audit plan, I need to have a good conversation with upper management, have a good research on reevaluate the overall risk and different audit results from previous year. All these prep work, and during June really is very hectic for not just me, but you all and every department because of the new budget cycle, the new school year, closing the school year, getting the summer school, all these. So I like to get your support for me to spend some time this year with the senior staff auditors' help that I can research. And I do have some idea and some information already with using the new risk assessment process criteria to go over and present to you in December for your approval. And I would do the same like now, probably from late October to early December, I will send you updates of the progress for you to review, for you to give me input. And in December board meeting for your approval. So we start new audit cycle January 1 and ends December. That way, everybody has more time to deal with me and also get you guys to look at what your assessments are and what I can carry out. So this is so for this transition year, I have proposed to you all in the package is for me to finish 16 new exit audits and 5 program and department audits, including some construction and bonds review, system review, because we have finance and school system new update because of COVID, because of other situation that we do. I like to make sure that we help every department and every campus to be in compliance with the COVID The ADA requirement is different. How to account for attendance is different. The system need to keep up with. And so all of these, and then a few other departments like dropout program, loss of credits that I would like to wrap up on this. So these are the 21 projects that I would like to finish by December. And in December, I present to you the new audit plan, okay? So for 1920, from July 1, 2019 to June 2020, this is a summary of how many projects by division that we have accomplished. So the complete, meaning this project went through 3 audit stages: initial audit, corrective action plan, follow-up audits. So these are 17 of them we completed. There were 22 projects that we finished in 1920, but we need to have the follow-up audit in 2021. And then there were 5 audit reports we issued do not require corrective action plan, or corrective action plan took care of everything, so we do not need to do any follow-up audit. So that's the summary of those. Do you have any question that I can answer? And I wanted to say that I truly appreciate all of you, every one of you, from board to superintendent to upper management to every level of employee that I have to contact or work with. All the secretaries, clerks, principal, assistant principal are very, very supportive. I could not say more how appreciative I am, because nobody likes to be audited. And I hope that the experience they have with me is positive experience. I never practice, I got you, I never practice iron fist philosophy. I strongly believe a team work spirit. We're here to help, to support every department, every school, to make sure if there was anything we can prevent or we can fix, we can correct, and we will provide this. Or if there's anything that we know of, compliance issue, anything that we can facilitate, we will do our best to provide this kind of services.
Any questions? Ms. Champagne, I do have something that again, it goes back to the time it takes to do these audits. My previous life, when I was doing these kind of audit, not your kind of audits, but something similar to it, we did audits and assessments, and our job, they told us we had this time frame, start to finish, and we had to do everything we could do within that time frame. I'm just curious to know, like all these projects that you showed, I'd like to see when the start date was and when the end date was, when you provided that final report. If you could provide that information next time in one of your charts, I would appreciate it, okay? I just want to know really what is taking most of your time. Is it high schools, middle, elementaries, high school? Well, I don't know. I just want to know which ones are taking so much longer, and what is it that the data that you're actually looking at that is impacting your timeline, okay?
Okay, I will prepare a data analysis that I do have a tracking internally we keep. Every staff hours we track on, and I will prepare those for your reference.
Yeah, I don't need the hours or anything. I just need to do the start date, the finish date, and what is it that you were auditing, okay? That's nothing more. And just to, to get a better handle of what is happening in your department. And these audit reports, I know they come out every so often, but I want to know, okay, has this been a long process, or was this something that was completed within a short period of time? Or it all depends also on the data that you got. I mean, that's not just because you went there. It's also if the data was provided to you in a timely manner. So a lot of factors that come into play.
Yes. And
Okay.
this past year, because of the staffing issue, so I will provide it to show you, but it's a little bit off chart.
And if you can go back to last year, I mean, that would be a great place to start, you know.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any questions, answers? All right, thank you, Michelle.
Mr. Ochoa, I will put it in Friday package for you all. Is it okay?
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Okay, thank you, Ms. Champagne again. We will now move to the workshop to do agenda review. Before we do that, Ms. Mathewson, is there any citizen input?
No, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. We will now discuss the agenda items as listed in the posted notice of regular meeting of Ysleta ISD Board of Trustees for August 27, 2020, and related recommended motions with the superintendent and executive cabinet, and receive responses to questions and or requests for additional information through the superintendent in preparation for deliberation and action at the August 27, 2020 regular Board of Trustees meeting, which is this Thursday. Consent items, the monthly financial update as of May and June 2020. Okay, just go ahead and wave your hand if you have anything that you want to add. Consent item number 2, ratification of award of YSD contract number 202-10017 with Region 4. Item number 3, waiver request for 40% hybrid instruction for 9th, 12th grade students. Item number 4, authorization to submit asynchronous plan to the Texas Education Agency. Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to the policy action items. All matters listed under the policy action item can be considered by the Board of Trustees to be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired on a specific items, that items will be removed from the policy action item and considered separately. Okay. Policy action item number 1, revision of policy BF local board policies.
President Ochoa, President Ochoa, for number 1, is there a way that Ms. Austin can just give an explanation on that as far as the, sorry, pull the right one, as far as the exactly what that means. I read into the backup, but I want to have a good understanding of what that means. So is it removing some of the things that are fall within our private responsibilities? That I just want to understand that completely.
Good evening, Mr. Ochoa, members of the board, Dr. Delatorre. Ms. Mathewson, am I muted still?
No, you're good.
Okay, great. Let me just real quick scroll to that in the board book. Oftentimes TASB does some things for clarification purposes. And my recollection is that's exactly what this was. Let me just pull up the language real quick. All they added was a line that said legally referenced policies are not adopted by the board. For some reason, they felt that was important, that they wanted to make that clear, that you all don't adopt the policies that are the legal policies, that comes down as a matter of law. That's all it was.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, both of you. Okay, item number 2, revision to policy DBB, local employment requirements and restrictions, medical examinations, and communication diseases. Item number 3, revision to policy DIA local employee welfare, freedom from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. Item number 4, revision to policy DMV local professional development and professional meetings and visitations. Item number 5, revision to policy EL local academic achievement. Policy item number 6, revision to policy FB local equal educational opportunity. Policy item number 7, revision to policy FD local admissions. Item number 8, revision to policy FEB local attendance accounting. Policy item number 9, revision to policy FFG local student welfare, child abuse and neglect. Revision to policy FFH local student welfare, freedom from discrimination, harassment, and retaliation.
Choa, this is another one. I did read the backup again, but I would like for Ms. Austin to give a brief explanation for the public as to what that means, this particular revision, please.
Ms. Austin or
FFH?
That's the item number 10.
Okay.
Policy FFH.
There are new provisions regarding the prohibition of sexual harassment under Title IX. There are new procedures because finally rules were adopted under Title IX. Basically, there are additional steps so that when there is an investigation of an allegation of sexual harassment under Title IX, that different people get involved. There is immediately, during the investigation, there is immediately some support provided for the student making the complaint, but there is also perhaps support provided or distancing or separation of the two students involved in the complaint, the complainant and the respondent. And there is more in the rules about not assuming that one is right and the other is wrong. So there's more protections there. And then there's an investigation and different people carry out different aspects of that investigation. And the school district is supposed to undertake the investigation and put support measures in place, even if the person who made the complaint, the allegation, never files a formal complaint. But they can file a formal complaint. And if they do, then it goes into another phase of the process, a more formalized process similar to what you all do with grievances. But we have a duty to act whether or not, we have a duty to investigate and we have a duty to provide support whether or not the person complaining ever files a formal complaint. So it's just some more procedures involved in sexual harassment investigations that perhaps were not made clear in the past. Finally, those rules have been implemented.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Austin. Any other questions on this item? Okay, if not, item number 11, revision to policy FMF local student activities, contest and competition. Okay. Policy item number 12, revision to policy FNG local student rights and responsibilities, student and parents complaints grievances. Policy item number 13, revision to policy GF local public complaints. Okay. So no policy items were pulled. Okay, let's move on to the action items. They're here listed. We will be discussing those in detail on Thursday, I'm sure. If you have any questions on any of them, please raise your hand. I'll give you some time to look them over. It's the one, it's the order accepting tax roll 2020-21. Number 2, order setting tax rate 2020-21. TASB delegate and alternate designations. I asked if any of you want to volunteer, please let Monica know and submit your name, please. Number 4, consider board resolution requesting suspension of STAR testing for 2020-21 school year. You have a question? Oh, yes, Connie. You're muted, Connie.
There you go. All right. I totally agree with what we're requesting here, but what I'm wondering about is the timing of asking for this. Over the last couple of days in particular, I've just been kind of looking at some of the other districts, the bigger districts in Texas, and it seems to me that everybody's all tied up in how are we going to start, how are we going to re-enter the classroom, how, all of those kind of minute details. And to me, timing is kind of everything. So I'd just like to ask, and I don't know if Shane's listening. I think he's the one that put this on the agenda. If he would have a comment about whether or not he thinks that the timing is appropriate for this and that we would get a good reaction. I would hate for it to just end up in, on deaf ears, that would fall on deaf ears. So anybody who would have it'd have to be one of the trustees, I think, that could address this. I don't know who to ask.
Well, I think that right now we have a lot on our plate, and that the TA and the governor is all being pressed for the waiver to keep online learning. And I think the timing, like you say, it is important. I mean, I think we should have it in hand. I think we had some proposals already, but it's up to the board. It's a board decision. It's not my decision or yours. It's a board decision. So, however you guys feel, I guess we'll vote on that on Thursday.
Can you guys hear me? Or
yeah, go ahead, Shane.
What I really wanted was just a starting point where we could use this as hopefully a platform to begin to look at the document, maybe get more board input and modify it and bring it back at the next meeting or something, but at least have something to start with so that way we can look towards producing a document that we will all be comfortable submitting.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, it's an action item, so we'll get to vote on that on Thursday. If not, we can vote on it on a later time, depending on how it goes.
We have Mike Rosales.
What's that?
Mike Rosales would like to say something.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Comment about the issue on timing. And I go back to the stress that the children and their parents are going through with this COVID. But I think, in my opinion, in talking to individuals that have children in our systems around Eastwood, they're very much in favor of providing some kind of relief instead of just tacking on the STAR test. Personally, I'm not a proponent of it, but I feel that with all that is going on, this morning's newscast, and last night's also, there was a tremendous amount of pressure on the children during this first week, physically, because they're sitting at the desk and they're doing their work on the computers. And I feel that we should step forward and take the initiative. The TEA commissioner can't take such action. And so I think if we could send this thing through, we may get shot down, but we may be one of the first ones to stand up to do what's right for our children. That's my opinion. I'm not. I know what I'm going to vote for, but I feel that there's just a lot of stress on our children, in addition to the parents, and least of what we want is put more stress on them. So that's the end of my story. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
I
Mr.
want to
Rosales.
agree with Trustee Rosales in the sense that I hear what Connie, what you're saying about time, Trustee Woodruff. I think though that with this particular year, there's no right time to get things that need to get done and for our voice to be heard. I think now is the right time, and if we need to, we're sending a resolution. If we need to send more information, we will do that. But I believe that this is the right time, and our voices need to get heard. We're speaking on behalf of our constituents, our teachers, and our students. And I think I just believe it is the right time. I agree with Trustee Rosales on this particular item.
President Ochoa, can I just offer a couple of things to think about? The resolution, your sentiments, all of that, I think is warranted. I think the danger, if any, and it's not really a danger, is that we've been in school all of 4 days, and what we'd like to basically do is concede. We'd like to concede that things aren't going to change. We'd like to concede that our teachers, as great as they are, aren't going to make a difference, that students aren't going to learn, aren't going to make progress. I personally think that the timing, that the state would be more receptive to a letter like this if we had gone through a 2-month or 3-month period where it's obviously clear that the experience that our students are having and the experience that our teachers are having is going to be an impediment and a deficiency going into testing, and testing really has no place in our environment this year because of everything else going on. The danger in going so early, is that they're more likely to discount it because we're into the first week. Some school districts, I think, are into the second or third week. And I don't want them to interpret that as these school districts, not Ysleta, I'm just saying in general, these school districts across the state that are sending in these resolutions I want to retreat from any accountability. They want the revenue. They want the waivers. They want the money for the COVID PPE. They want the money for the technology, but they don't want to be held accountable for anything. They want to pass this year. And it would feel less like that if you demonstrated that you've gone through a month and a half, 2 months, 2.5 months of struggle, and kids without computers, and families struggling to have internet access, and in other districts across the state, no digital devices, and teachers being burned out from having to sit in front of a computer. I think if you lead with it on the first day of school, it may be interpreted as we've surrendered already, and we're already telling you that we're not going to do the best we can with our students. And I don't want that message. I want teachers to work super hard. And if down the road it's obvious that the circumstances are something that are insurmountable and that we can't possibly expect uh, growth and progress and improvement from our kids, then at that point, I would make that case.
Dr. La Torre, help me to understand. Is this the only method that we have to measure growth? Is the STAR exam?
It is the primary method in the state of Texas and not 49.
But is it the only method that we have? Because if we're measuring growth and we're really doing what's best in the interest of our students and teachers, with the politics aside, because we know that there's also politics involved in this decision at the state level.
None of what I'm talking about is political.
No, I understand. But with that politics aside, the reality is we are able at the local level to measure that growth. So whether we send this letter, this resolution this month, next month, after we've shown all the hard work, I think you could look at it in two ways. If we do it now, we're ahead. We're looking ahead and we're saying, okay, we still have a high expectation. We still expect growth, and we're going to measure that growth with the other methods we have. What we're saying is we are not going to be tied to something in this particular year that isn't going to be beneficial to our teachers or our students or our parents at this time. And that's the message. Tell me how to get that message across, because I think we're looking at it in two different ways.
I understand. What I would say to you is that your local assessments, your formative assessments, your benchmark assessments are designed to inform teachers to help them identify those students that need additional support and instruction, intervention, acceleration, et cetera. In the real world, what they want to know is how are your students performing against other students who are going to be in the job market 5, 6, 7 years from now, who are going to be applying to colleges and universities, who are going to be competing for spots at colleges and universities. So I'm not suggesting that we don't assess our students and that our teachers don't know who's growing, but in our system, it is STAR, it is EO end of year course exams, it is SAT, ACT, TSI, and nowhere on that list do colleges ask for a district's internal formative assessments as a criteria for acceptance into colleges, universities, trade schools, or other professions. They want certificates, they want GPAs, they want performance on assessments. And it may not be perfect.
I don't ask for your STAR exam. At least for me, it's specific to the STAR test. That's not something they're going to ask when our kiddos are going to college. They're going to want to, they need all the other things you discussed, but not specific to the STAR.
But the STAR test is what informs our counselors and teachers as to which students need to be encouraged to take advanced placement courses, honors courses, and courses that support a STEM agenda that I think this country wants. And ultimately, it's up to the board. I'm just saying there really isn't any sense of urgency. My worry is that if you send it in early, it's going to end up in the round file.
Ms. Woodruff, you had a comment?
To say that I don't want anybody to get the impression that I don't agree with the pressures that children are put under, especially when in regards to this testing. What I really don't want to see us do is to put out something that isn't taken seriously, that it falls on deaf ears, that people will think that it isn't appropriate. And so I definitely want us to do what's right on this resolution. To me, I just want to make sure that it's the right timing. That's the main thing that I'm thinking of. Not that we don't do it, and not that it's not appropriate. I'm just, I think sometimes if you jump too quick, then you lose some of your power. But I agree with whatever the board wants to do, and I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you.
Hey, thank you, Connie. Any other comments? Okay. Okay. Can't hear you, Shane.
We still have GPAs. We still have.
Hello? Hello? Okay, I guess we're.
Sorry.
We don't have to start this. Who even knows what the health start test is? Yes.
I can't hear.
No, it's breaking up. I'm sorry, Shane. We're gonna have to move on. We can't hear anything you're saying. It's all broken up. Okay. All right. Let's move on to item number 7, modification of 2019-2020 internal audit plan and timing of future plans. Okay. And the last one is award of phase 2 solicitation bond number bond 2019 RFP-01 BP 1904 Bel Air High School additions and renovations. There's no other comments. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, adjourn. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Sorry, Shane.
All right, thank you very much.